Bonjour à tous et bienvenue dans Hors Piste. Parfois il y a des groupes qui font que passer mais qui laissent une marque parce qu'ils disaient quelque chose de l'époque. Dans ce cas précis, c'était une sorte de cri dans une cathédrale. Ce groupe, c'est Wu Lyf, une bande de Manchester qui n'a sorti qu'un seul album, vous vous en souvenez peut-être, c'était il y a 8 ans. Aujourd'hui, ses membres sont partis chacun voguer de leur côté, et parmi eux, il y a le bassiste Thomas McLung. Après des années à se chercher, des années de maturation, il sort son premier album le 13 septembre sous son nom de scène Francis Lung, et il est l'invité de ce 12e épisode de Hors Piste. Alors il joue une pop délicate qui évoque les Beatles, les zombies avec des arrangements de cordes très bien pensés. Francis Lung nous a aussi fait le plaisir d'enregistrer 2 chansons en acoustique avec Coralie Monet, sa partenaire de groupe et de vie. Et une fois n'est pas coutume, j'ai essayé de monter la conversation sous forme d'histoire, un peu comme un épisode de Transfert, le super podcast produit par Louis Média, avec le moins d'intervention possible de ma part. Et donc c'est l'histoire d'un musicien qui se cherche, qui joue de tous les instruments dans tous les groupes et qui parvient au fil de son parcours à découvrir des clés essentielles, des petites vérités pour écrire de la musique. J'espère que ça vous plaira. Francis Lung est dans Hors Piste.
I suppose my first memory of playing music was I would sit and listen to my sister play the piano, and she's an amazing musician. She was grade 8, which is in England that's the highest you can get on learning piano from a teacher. I would listen to her practice, and every time she got a note wrong, I would go, no, it's not like that, it's like this. She's like 5 years older than me, and you know, she didn't need me to tell her when she'd made mistakes, but I liked listening, and I liked just listening to the performance, and I was never a musical child. I was actually too distracted when I did my piano lessons. I'd get very bored because it was very regimented and boring, and I learned like one song. It was like, jelly on a plate, wibble wobble, jelly on a plate, just 3 notes. That was as far as I got. I didn't get to any chords or anything. But I had this thing where I felt like I had very clear ideas of what I did like and what I didn't like, and I could always have when I was a kid I used to have very real images in my head when I'd listen to music. Me and my sister would listen to music together when I was a very young kid, and we would tell each other what we saw in our heads. Like, we'd listen to The Prodigy and we would see like great big monsters, and we would describe what the monsters looked like, and we would love to hear how each other could interpret it. But yeah, I couldn't play anything. And I just thought, I'm not gifted, I can't do it. And then in school, this is much later in high school, I was about 14. I made friends with a person in my art class, and he said that he had a band and they were looking for a drummer, and for some reason, I just lied, and I was like, I play drums. I can do it. Because I knew that my dad had a drum kit at home, and like, I was like, I'm sure I can learn 1 beat. And then, yeah, learn as I go. I mean, like, I'm still going to be a better drummer than these guys because they've never played drums. So I went home, my dad taught me 1 beat, just boom, boom, boom. And I went the next day and I said like, hey guys, check it out. And they were like, cool, what else can you do? And I was like, what else do you need? That's it. That's drumming. And they were like, okay. And I joined the band. And it went from there. And like, somehow, I like got much better at it. I think I was very, like, what I didn't have in natural ability, I made up for in just tenacity. And after that, like, I was in bands with these guys forever, and I started to try and tell them, like, I was just starting to play the guitar after a couple of years of playing drums, and I'd write these weird songs with like crappy chords, and I would be like telling them all like, hey, let's learn my song. And I don't think they liked being told what to do by the drummer. Like, I'm not playing the drummer's songs, what the fuck? So they all quit. my band, and so I was left on my own. Kind of started like that. I just made songs for myself.
She rides high on a Saturday night. Halo gleams under a street light. Billboards streaming through tearless eyes. Walk without purpose and her shoes untied. I know how we're going to get home now. Let me walk beside you. Let me bend your ear a little. Can you be the real you? I lost the real me years ago. If you could help me find it, 'cause I don't even know just where to start. Lost the lost in a pickup bus. I got a funny feeling that I'll never be realized. Now I'm feeling worse than you can feel. I want to be real, but not too real. Nothing could be worse than how you feel. I want to be real, but not too real. I don't know how we're going to get home now. I don't know how we're going to get home now. Won't you walk beside me? Won't you bend my ear a little? Could you be the real you? 'Cause I lost the real me years ago. If you could help me find it, 'cause I don't even know just where to start. And now the hour is calling. 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 And now the hour is calling.
On vient d'entendre Too Real, le premier single de Francis Lung, en version acoustique, rien que pour vous, les auditeurs de Hors Piste. Alors, on redémarre la conversation. Nous sommes cette fois au milieu des années 2000. Thomas est sur le point d'intégrer un groupe qui va changer sa vie via Ellery James Robert, le futur chanteur de Wu Lyf.
I was a drummer in a band with Ellery, and we had our own band called Jasper's Skinny Arms, and we were friends. And then he joined another band, and I just sort of like tagged along for no reason. And I went along to their band practice, and I picked up a guitar and just started playing, and then it just happened like that. It's just sort of getting my way. Like, if I wanted something, and then I would make it happen. I was quite tenacious as a kid. Like, I want to be in this band, I'm going to do it. There was too many guitars in the band, so they asked me to play bass. I didn't know how to play bass. I didn't want to be a shit bassist. And I would spend hours playing the bass, like so many hours, like at home, because wanted to be really, really good. I wanted to be, you know, I was really influenced by guys like Mike Watt from the Minutemen, who was just an incredible bassist, and I wanted to get into it and be able to do anything that I wanted to. So I spent years doing that, and I was really understanding rhythm better, and I was understanding the role of the bass and what it could do, and how it was a really important instrument in the band. And all the best music had really great bass players, like all the you know, Carol Kay from the Wrecking Crew. She played on so many hits, and if you listen to all those songs, like, I don't think it's a coincidence that all these amazing hit songs also had amazing bass lines. It can like make or break a song, and that made me feel like my role was important. It was like 5 or 6 years of my life. It's a long time. It kind of feels like someone else's life. Wu Lyf was kind of like an experimental thing for me, like, because it was kind of like an indie band, or like a cool band. I didn't consider myself cool at all. I just, like, you know, I was just trying to do things. I didn't really know what I was, so I was like, I didn't think that I couldn't do anything. So I still did my own songs. I still did songs with Ellery, with Jasper's Skinny Arms in that band. And I mean, eventually it actually kind of took over everything, and I didn't write for a little while. Well, I didn't think I was any good at writing songs. People paid so much attention to what was happening in Wu Lyf. It was kind of like, well, my stuff's so different, then who would care about it? For a while, I just concentrated on being a bassist and trying to sing. I wasn't much of a singer, so I was learning how to do that. Just a really difficult thing to learn how to do. But being in that band showed me that sometimes the simplest sentiments are the most affecting. I learned how to simplify. I think that the songs that I wrote before Wu Lyf were very complicated, and I thought that something had to be complicated to be good and to be expressive. And sometimes you can just have 2 chords for a song. So I started to think about that, and I would pick up a guitar, and I remember trying to write a song with just I had one line, like, can it all be so simple? Like a question, can songwriting be simple? I just did 1 chord, 2 chord, I just sang that line, and it was like, oh, it was like a window had opened for me. It's like, oh, this is so easy, and it was great. Like, I was just like, oh, I can do this. And it seemed possible. And then I wrote like Brooklyn Girls, about a trip that we did to Brooklyn with Wu Lyf, and it was like a story, and it was true, but it was also kind of funny, and it was like, oh, this is interesting. I like this writing. This is, I guess it felt like me. After that, I got way into the writing again.
c'était un extrait de Wu Lyf. Alors c'est vrai qu'on en parle depuis le début. Bon voilà, enfin vous pouvez entendre ce groupe, vous en souvenir si vous l'avez déjà entendu. Le morceau s'appelle Split It Like Concrete in a Cold and Sun Gold. Un groupe qui se voulait très mystérieux, pas de photos de ses membres, peu de concerts.
It was just our instinct was to say no to things that we didn't want to do, because we knew about bands that just had to do a load of shit that they didn't want to do, and we were just like, well, no, this is our band. We want to do things differently. So we followed our instinct on a lot of things, and then it led to being what it was. Like, and all a band ever is people's interpretations. It's never really what the band intends it to be. You know what I mean? You can have all the best intentions in the world and be completely misrepresented. Sometimes, like, you can try and cultivate something. It doesn't happen. It comes out as something else. And then once you see how it's perceived, you can play with that, which we did. So it was like, okay, the cards, we have a full hand. The stakes are on our side, so we can play with it. Let's use it. I mean, like, yeah, it was stressful for all of us. I think for some of us more than others. It's really weird. Like that Transmusicale show. That's my second gig playing bass, I think. Maybe. That was a really tough show. But then there's all this like hype around it or whatever at the time, like people were really excited for it. Yeah. And I had no idea. I think I barely moved for the whole gig because I was like concentrating so hard, and I had no stamina, so it was really hard to hold down the strings and stuff. That was tough. But I'm sure to people's perception it was just like, oh my god, this band think they're so cool or something, but really I was just terrified. We were too young. I don't know if you're ever ready for that kind of propulsion into like any sort of spotlight, especially not when you're 19. So the band split up, and there's about a year where I was not really doing anything. Like I knew that I wanted to do Francis Lung. Francis Lung already existed, and for me it was like, yeah, this is my year and I'm going to do it. So that year I did release Age Limits in 2013 or 2012. Really, as soon as I'd like finished making it, so I was like really trying to be busy, but I didn't know what I was doing, so I just released one song and I didn't have anything else ready, and it was just the wrong thing to do. And so like you get a lot of like attention and then you don't capitalize and it goes away. So it was just trial and error. And like after a year, like I was like, maybe I should get a job, maybe I should start working, and that takes up a lot of time too. So yeah, I've had a very normal life for about 10 years. Dance for Sorrow de Francis Lung, extrait de son premier EP paru il y a quand même 3 ans, un album qui a mis des années à maturer. It took a long time to like figure out, like to just have the basics of the song, and then to go like, oh well, what does that song need, and to figure out how to be ambitious with it, and to be brave enough to be ambitious, and then to figure it out practically as well. So it's lots and lots of listening. Lots and lots of listening to how records are structured. What needs to be there? What doesn't need to be there? Why is this good? Like, why are the Beatles good? You can write a list now, or at least I can write a list now of why the Beatles are good. And it comes down to so many things. And it's like, how can you reapply knowledge from listening into your own music? That's what my project is for me. It's like songs are everything, you know, for why music resonates with people, I think. You know, songs and lyrics, but then the recorded part, the track, is the other side of it. Like, it's that they're like a perfect marriage, like the song and the recording, and in the middle of that you have the arrangement. And for me, like, arranging is probably my favorite part of the whole thing. Songwriting is tough, and sometimes it comes and sometimes it doesn't, but arranging is so fun. Like doing the strings, that wasn't hard, that was great, because I just imagined it. Like, I've got quite a clear imagination, so I imagined a note that would play, and then you just find it on the piano. There it is. And then, like, you put that down, you put that one string line down as you imagine it, and then you put down the next line that you've imagined. Like, I can separate it out because I've got a lot of practice, lots of listening, and maybe it doesn't sound quite right, so you change it after it comes out of your head, and that is arranging. It's not that hard. It's just because like strings to people are expensive instruments, and they're baroque, and they are, I don't know, it's like royalty, it's like chamber music, it's expensive shit, you know. But you can do anything if you break it down to its barest components and build it up from there. You can do it. It's no mystery. Like, it's definitely been incredibly dedicated. I think I am really dedicated to making music and to analysing it, and I'm obsessed with it. Like, that's the key, I think, if there was any. You have to be. You can't half-heartedly do it. It's work. It's hard work, and it's like trial and error. Like, make a load of recordings and like see how spare you can make them. You know, see where the track lives with the least amount of information, and build from there if it needs it. And always start with the song as well. I played some of the drums. So my drummer Andrew Richardson played most of the drums. My friend and keyboardist Josh, he played a couple of keyboard bits, and Jake, the guitarist and bassist in my band, he played a couple of guitar bits. Other than that, I played everything because I like that. It's quicker than me telling people what to do sometimes, and it also makes me a better musician if I go through that process. And then there's obviously the Halle Orchestra played the strings. There's a musician called Sam Healy that played the saxophone. Coralie, my girlfriend and partner in life, she sings on the record as well. She's all the female voices that you hear. But I've always done things by myself, so it makes sense for me to carry on like that. I love listening to it when I've done it all. It makes me proud. So me and Coralie, we're gonna play Unnecessary Love is the other song. It's a song about escaping. So it's about an unrequited love, which is quite a classic concept to cover, and I think it's one of the more classic melodies that I've ever written. I'm not sure how I wrote it. It just happened one day.
No, I don't wanna talk about it. Yes, I don't wanna talk about it. No, I don't wanna talk about it. Yes, I don't wanna talk about it. No, I don't wanna talk about it anymore. 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 Anymore.
I was recording the other day by myself, and I was doing a guitar part, and so I did it, and then I listened back, and I was going like, that's weird, I don't like this, but I liked the guitar part, and I thought like, oh, this is fine, I love this guitar part, this is cool, and then I listened back, and it was just like, something's wrong, and because I've done it so much now, I've started to see that like, if something's wrong, you have to make a drastic change if something's wrong. It's never going to be a small change to this. Like, listen to everything and think like, okay, this is all fitting together. Like, this is all vital. So that guitar part needs to go, doesn't it? Yeah, it's gone. And then you think about like, what is this song doing to the listener? Like what is this beat doing? And what's the least amount that I could do to emphasize that? And so I just totally took this guitar part out and I just made it like one note, or like a super simplified version, no chords, no nothing, totally different. And now it needs an organ part. You know, there is no wrong answer. There's no wrong, there's only more right. If you think about it like that, I think that we're all culpable. I think it's all just the human condition, the distractedness. I don't think, like, maybe some people are more distracted than others, but it's not easy for anyone. But you can do it. Like, if you have a good attitude, you know, you should just make a song that's a joke, that you know is a joke. Write a silly song about a leaf on the street that you see, or write a silly song about your cat, and just finish it. Just like write it all, and then listen back to it. It might be a piece of shit, but you finished something. And when you get into the habit of finishing things is when you get good, because you figure out how things are made. And when you make mistakes, you see what not to do. And so that creates a path. That's how I see writing.
C'était Francis Leung de Hors Piste. J'espère que vous avez aimé cet épisode, et si c'est le cas, n'hésitez pas à mettre des étoiles sur iTunes, à laisser un commentaire, ça m'aide beaucoup, ça fait remonter le podcast. Et si vous avez envie d'écouter d'autres podcasts, je ne saurais que trop vous conseiller de vous intéresser à Podcut, c'est le label qui produit Hors Piste. Sur podcut.studio, c'est le site du label, vous allez trouver plein d'autres podcasts à écouter. Et si vous voulez nous soutenir, il y a aussi un Patreon. Alors c'est les vacances, voilà, vous avez un mois pour réécouter peut-être si vous avez envie les autres épisodes d'Hors Piste. Et si vous avez déjà tout écouté, on se donne rendez-vous à l'épisode 13. D'ici là, achetez des disques. Salut!